Once upon a time, I was a liberal.
Please welcome Walkaway founder, Brandon Straka.
Woo! You guys having a good time? I love you too. I have a little story to tell you. In the year 2016, in the month of November, something happened to me. Something far worse than any tragedy that's ever happened in American history.
For America to decide.
Hillary Clinton is the winner, in for by 3 electoral votes. Donald Trump, while Peter Jack will win in Kentucky with his 8 electoral votes.
Donald J. Trump is the president of the United States elect.
I was working at the time as a hairstylist in New York City, and naturally, the day after the election, in order to cope with what had just happened, I had to cancel all of my appointments and take a personal wellness day. After all, I couldn't be anywhere near scissors or bleach. And so I did what any calm, rational, clear-thinking person would do. I got on Facebook Live, and I started crying.
I rolled over, I found out that he won, and I didn't sleep the rest of the night, and I had to cancel my day today because I can barely function right now, and I couldn't take clients, and I don't know, I need a hug right now.
But as the days following the election passed, I began to realize it wasn't really me that I was devastated for.
I just really feel sad, the death of a dream, which was getting to see our first woman president take office, and I've been a long-time Hillary fan and Hillary supporter, and I didn't realize how much I wanted this for her until Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm finding myself feeling just crushed for her. This must have meant the world to her, and acceptance that it's not going to happen. I hope that people will see her more clearly and not, sort of as the monster that she's been made out to be by certain press agencies, and the way she's been villainized. But see somebody who really believes in America.
It's hard to believe that just over 1 year later, this.
Once upon a time, I was a liberal.
I started Walkaway because I had a genuine experience that shook me to my core and turned my life upside down. The experience began in 2017 with the startling realization that almost everything I believed in my entire life was actually nothing more than a carefully constructed narrative installed into public consciousness with meticulous deceit by the entertainment industry, the media, and various systems of propaganda in our culture. When I realized that not only was I being lied to, but that the Democrats and the media had concocted a formula to control minority communities in this country through a steady diet of fear-mongering and deception, I became outraged, and I decided to do something about it. So on May 26th of 2018, I launched an idea. Nothing like it had ever been done before. Utilize the power of social media and the power of testimonial videos to create a movement for people to walk away from the left together as a community. I put out a 6-minute video detailing all of the reasons why I was walking away from the Democratic Party, and I launched a Facebook group encouraging people to create their own walkaway videos and share their own stories.
Called the #Walkaway campaign group page. And that's where I launched the testimonial campaign. And at this point now we have thousands of testimonials from people on both sides telling their story.
I wanted to make a quick video explaining why I walked away.
Today I'm gonna share with you my walkaway story.
We have left the Democratic plantation. We are off the plantation. #Walkaway.
I had to walk away from the Democratic Party.
Major political figures like James Woods, Donald Trump Jr., and many more started using the hashtag regularly, but nobody at that level actually knew yet what it was. I knew this idea had the potential to have real power, and I had to fight with everything I had to get the public to understand my vision. And so I said yes to every opportunity I was offered to talk about my idea. I began doing up to 12 radio and podcasts every day, 7 days a week, starting at 5 a.m., sometimes past midnight. And I was focused on only one thing: make sure every person in this country knows the name Walkaway, no matter what it takes. As the world began talking more and more about #Walkaway, I knew I needed a major national news interview to establish leadership and get it under control. And finally, on July 2nd, 5 weeks after I launched the movement, my boyfriend called.
Well, not everybody on the left is on board with where the left is going. Brandon Straka has spent years as a liberal. He recently released a new video encouraging other progressives to walk away.
I thought that CNN told the truth. I thought MSNBC told the truth. I thought Rachel Maddow told the truth. So this was mind-blowing to me. I wanted to create a campaign because I knew there were other people like me who were feeling the same way. So what I've done is I've created a testimonial campaign utilizing video and written testimonials. This is happening right now on Facebook. It's called the #Walkaway campaign.
From there, we were off to the races. Testimonials began flooding in by the dozens. Suddenly, everyone was talking about #Walkaway.
And now there's this, and this grassroots movement are urging Democrats who are fed up with their party to #Walkaway. It's called the Walkaway movement, and it's gaining serious momentum.
The Walkaway movement continues to gain traction online.
It's Brandon Straka, who has created quite a stir in recent days.
There's a burgeoning new online movement billing itself as #Walkaway, where once proud liberals denounce their former political identity as the left is moving further and further away from something called reality.
Right? Almost immediately, an attack was initiated against us. In early July, the left-wing media began churning out a blitzkrieg of articles stating that Walkaway was a Russian disinformation campaign. Remember that? And that the hashtag was not being used by real people, but by Russian bots at Vladimir Putin's direction. But it quickly became much more unhinged. Within weeks, the left-wing media began reporting that the people in Walkaway testimonials were paid actors and Shutterstock models. Some articles even suggested that I was being paid by Russia to act as a spokesman for the movement. It was shocking, but back then my team and I thought it was somewhat funny. I felt a sense of pride to be so threatening to the left that they would engage in this type of outlandish attempt to discredit me and Walkaway. What we didn't know then, and didn't find out until many years later, was that this narrative didn't originate from a bunch of leftist hacks in the mainstream media. In 2018, former heads of the CIA, NSA, DHS, along with Hillary Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta, created a digital dashboard called Hamilton 68, which claimed to track Russian influence and disinformation. Hamilton 68 was the source that created the lie that Walkaway was a Russian propaganda campaign supported by Russian bot accounts. And meet Suzanne Spalding, senior advisor for the Department of Homeland Security. Spalding's job was to conduct cybersecurity trainings for our government intelligence agencies to track Russian disinformation. #Walkaway was one of Spalding's commonly used examples in her trainings. In one such government cybersecurity training session titled "Why Putin Targets Minorities," Spalding stated, "We believe that Russia targets, fosters, and weaponizes specific groups to serve the larger purpose of undermining the appeal of liberal democracies. As individuals begin to identify with these online groups more strongly, Russian disinformation then encourages them to disengage," or #Walkaway. All I knew at the time was that I was one person up against the entirety of the mainstream media who were organizing to invalidate this fledgling movement. I knew I had to fight back with a tactical response. And then it dawned on me. If they're going to delegitimize us by creating a false narrative that Walkaway is not real people, then let's do a march on Washington. Real people marching together in the streets of DC. Holding signs, flags, and banners, marching away from the dishonest left together. I had never done anything like it before. I called upon my friend Tracy Beans and a handful of volunteers, and somehow we brought thousands of people to DC for the Walkaway March on Washington. A weekend so unique and so powerful that President Donald Trump tweeted out, #Walkaway movement marches today in DC. Congratulations to Brandon Straka for starting something very special. The success of the Walkaway March proved what I already knew. Walkaway is a real force with legs that stretch far beyond social media. It was time to get on the ground and begin bringing this message to the people where it was most needed. When I created the Walkaway org, I knew I wanted to do something completely different than what other conservative organizations were doing. And I wanted to be effective by filling in the gaps where conservatives were failing. I consider it to be a calling upon my life and one of my core missions to persuasively connect with minority communities and break the chains that are holding Black and brown, LGBT, religious minorities, and others captive to a toxic, destructive, and blatantly dishonest ideology. So I began gathering powerful voices from these various communities together and traveling the country, doing town halls, debates, rallies, college campus tours, and much more. In 2019, Walkaway produced 24 of these events, spoke at nearly a dozen colleges, and produced our own video series, The Hard Truth. 5-minute videos with former liberals taking on different liberal leftist lies and cultural myths and setting the record straight. Almost every event we've done has been fraught with some type of peril. In New York City, our first Walkaway LGBT town hall, it was canceled days before our event by our venue, the LGBT Center, claiming that we are a bigoted hate group. The left has no boundaries when it comes to stopping minorities, members of a minority community, from telling others that they can think for themselves and break free from the ownership of their leftist masters. My team pulled together and we did what we always do. We hustled and we overcame. And within a few days, we secured a new venue for the event, and the first ever Walkaway LGBT town hall was a huge success, including leftist protesters. The intensity of hatred against us by leftist protesters, Antifa and BLM, continued to grow over time. By early 2020, Walkaway had done dozens of events and had numerous of them canceled by the venues. On several occasions, like in Chicago and San Francisco, our venues canceled us the same day of the event, after we had flown our whole team, all the speakers, and the film crew to that city. By February of 2020, we had had enough. So when the San Francisco town hall was canceled hours before the event, we sent out a message saying that the event would go on, that we would prop up directors' chairs out on the sidewalk in front of the venue and do the event on the street outside. What we didn't expect was that dozens and dozens of Antifa would show up, including the now infamous screaming bald girl.
We've been canceled in New York City, we've been canceled in Chicago, we were even canceled one other time here in San Francisco. So we decided, to hell with it, the show must go on. We're gonna go to the women's building, and if we can't get in, we're gonna stand on the street, and we're gonna do a free speech rally right there in front of the women's building.
Walkaway has done events for the Black community, for the Hispanic community. We will be doing them for the Jewish community. The LGBT community has been co-opted by a cult. The cult of the liberal leftists.
Walk away! Walk away! Walk away! Walk away! The day of the liberal left controlling the narrative in America is over.
A lot of protesters, and things got really crazy. At times it got on the brink of violence. They had noisemakers, they were screaming, they were chanting, they were hollering into bullhorns.
Status. Why is it that there are 3.6...
They screamed, they blared sirens, they destroyed our microphone cords and our sound equipment, and they tried to intimidate our audience into leaving, but they failed. Some in our audience that night on the street in San Francisco were even Patriots over 70 years old. Some of them had probably never seen anything as heated as that event before, but all of them stood strong, tall, and resolute against the leftist lunatic agitators. And in the end, those brave and determined Patriots won and led Walkaway to a victory for truth that night in San Francisco, and I couldn't be more proud. In 2020, COVID hit and we were put under lockdown. Then George Floyd died and all hell broke loose. I watched for weeks as the left ravaged America's cities and even went into private neighborhoods and tormented citizens in their homes. We were all told we couldn't go outside, couldn't gather, couldn't go to church, couldn't go to work. But the left was allowed to gather in mobs of thousands to burn, loot, murder, and destroy with no consequences. And I kept asking myself, is anybody going to do anything? And once again, I thought, stop waiting for a hero to arrive. Step up and be the leader that people need right now. So the Walkaway team, just a skeleton crew of a few people, got to work creating what we called Rescue America rallies. The message was simple. If the left is allowed to go outside to demonstrate while the rest of us are ordered to stay inside, we will not comply. We will not give up our country willingly to the radical left. And so we raised the money and we embarked on 19 rallies in 19 major cities across America. By midsummer, the violent assaults on our nation by BLM and Antifa had become a daily occurrence. On August 27th, my team and I traveled to Washington, D.C. for an event and this was where we were assaulted by BLM for the very first time.
So I was a guest last night at the White House for the close of the RNC convention to watch President Trump's speech. It was a magical evening. Everything was absolutely incredible. 4 of the people who were with the BLM mob that was harassing the majority of the people as they were leaving walked up to Mikey Harlow, spit in his face. They threw a drink at me, threw a cup in my face, and then they actually hit Libby Albert, the girl who was with me. They called us the anti-gay F word about 3 or 4 times, as you can see in that video. I would like to ask some of those in media, gay people like Anderson Cooper, Don Lemon, and Andy Cohen, do you have anything to say about the fact that 2 gay men were attacked last night by Black Lives Matter? Because you guys have been really supportive of this organization. I'd love to know what you think about that now that 2 people in your community were attacked by this organization.
It's a fair question.
The next day, we all flew to Chicago, where a group of dozens of BLM and Antifa showed up to protest our rally. In Chicago, they were noisy and disruptive, but not violent or instigating attacks. But 2 days later, we traveled to San Francisco for our next Rescue America rally. BLM and Antifa came dressed as Walkaway supporters, but eventually made their true intentions known when members of the group began tearing up our signs and charged at me, screaming, "F you, Brandon!" But thankfully, Big Nick was there to step in and prevent me. Say hi, Nick.
Tensions flared on the Golden Gate Bridge today. Demonstrators joining a nationwide grassroots movement billed as walking away from anti-police protests, social discord, and the radical left.
If you guys want to go loot some stores, you're in the wrong place. You need to go through your smashing and looting down the street.
The demonstration was spearheaded by conservative activist Brandon Straka, billed as a rally to rescue America in opposition to the Black Lives Matter movement.
If there is any legitimate concerns that they have, it's all getting lost in the violence, it's getting lost in the looting, it's getting lost in the beatings and the killings. If they have legitimate concerns, they need to find a different way to express them, because all they're doing right now is repelling people from their cause.
Back up.
A handful of counter-protesters were taken into custody.
6 days after that marked one of the scariest and most eye-opening incidents I've ever seen, aside, of course, from everything that happened after January 6th. My team traveled to Dallas for our next Rescue America rally. First, BLM showed up and charged our stage while Shamika Michelle was speaking. Then a BLM attacker assaulted our security guard and was arrested. The attacker began shouting to his cohorts, "Call Chief Hall, call Chief Hall," referring to the Dallas Chief of Police, Renee Hall, a BLM sympathizer. About 30 minutes later, the police came back and arrested our security guard. So we traveled to the police station to get our security guard released. When we arrived, we saw a group of about 35 BLM members standing outside the police station about to hold a press conference. Every network was there: ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, Telemundo, and others. When BLM saw us approaching the police station, they encircled me and began making threats to our safety. So I looked at my team of 5 and I said, "Let's get out of here." We tried to cross the street and leave, and around 20 or more of the BLM anarchists began throwing bottles and traffic cones at us, then literally chased us down the street for 5 blocks, stealing our phones from my employees, breaking them, and screaming and threatening us.
You don't get the opportunity. Tell your ass. Here. You guys just fought. What the fuck? They fucking run. Put your fucking phone down. Give me that damn phone. Give me that damn phone. Give me that phone. Fucking go. Yeah. You stupid fuck. You dumb bitch. You're a minority just like you're not a part of the community at all.
Motherfucker, this ain't time for fucking conversation.
It's time for you to get the fuck out of here.
Fucking go!
We're being chased by a mob of people outside the police station, a mob of Black Lives Matter protesters. They've already thrown shit at us. We're trying to get away from them.
Arling, phone, move! Arling, phone, move! You want me violent? You want me to show you violence? I will show you violence!
That night, every news network carried the BLM press conference. Despite all the news organizations witnessing what had happened to us, they allowed BLM to present themselves as the victims of a racist attack on their organization and mentioned nothing of what BLM did to us in front of them. And that's when I knew there were forces at work far more nefarious than just fake news. They're in on it. They're not just enabling it, they are it. The media is a part of the leftist revolution to destroy America. On January 6, 2021, I was a scheduled speaker at a permitted event on Capitol grounds. I never entered the Capitol on January 6th. I never engaged in any violence, vandalism, theft, or destruction, nor did I witness any. Nothing I witnessed could be described as a riot by any honest person, and I certainly didn't engage in any rioting. But I shot a video outside the open doors of the East Side for 8 minutes, and then I uploaded that video to Twitter. And 2.5 weeks later, a team of FBI agents in tactical gear stormed my apartment at dawn and got me out of bed and put me in handcuffs and took me to jail. During the days I was in jail, news traveled around the globe that the founder of the Walkaway movement had been arrested and charged for his role in the deadly insurrection. My role was that I had no role. But again, we no longer have a media that challenges government. We have a media that supports government, especially when it's weaponized against opponents of the left's agenda. When I was released from jail, I met with my attorney who told me in no uncertain terms that if I wanted to have a chance of coming out of the government's attack with my life somewhat intact, that I needed to just disappear. No media interviews, no events, no fundraisers, no social media, nothing. Just vanish. And so I did. The lies about January 6th and my involvement were used as an excuse to systematically annihilate me and Walkaway. That month, Facebook banned the Walkaway campaign, which had grown to now over 511,000 members, with tens of thousands of videos and written testimonials, all gone in an instant. We were permanently banned by PayPal, Venmo, Stripe, Patreon, our donor portals, our email services. We literally lost our ability to process payments from our monthly recurring donors, and we lost our ability to be able to email them to tell them it had happened. I got a notice of eviction from my apartment the day I got out of jail, giving me 30 days to find a new place to live. I was placed on a terrorism watch list with a designation of Quad S, which is the highest level terrorism list that you can be on and still be allowed to fly. And through all of this, the right was silent. My name was never mentioned by any of those conservative influencers. Some of them even deleted videos off their websites that had me in them. I had never seen anything like it. It was like Walkaway and I just ceased to exist. And then I was served in a civil lawsuit brought by a Soros-funded nonprofit firm out of DC. The firm is representing 8 Capitol police officers who are black, who decided to sue me and a number of other high-profile conservatives under the KKK Act, alleging a civil rights conspiracy to attack black officers at the Capitol or something equally stupid or nonsensical. The officers in question were not even working on the same side of the building I was on. And so I found myself trying to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay for my criminal defense, for my civil defense, and to keep my organization and my employees afloat, while also not being able to leave the state that I live in without permission from the court, and while trying to remain in hiding. While going through my criminal and civil cases, I managed to also raise enough money to fund the creation of my own app called Walkaway Social. To replace the Facebook group that was banned after January 6th, I stayed up to take late meetings in the middle of the night every night with developers in India, Pakistan, and the United States. The app functions identically to Facebook, giving our users the same experience they had in our group, but it's owned by me, not Mark Zuckerberg. And it safeguards our content on our own autonomous platform. I took a misdemeanor plea deal, and in January of 2022, I was sentenced to 3 months of house arrest, 3 years of federal probation, after already spending a year on pretrial supervision and time in jail. Finally, I was free to speak again. So I scheduled an hour-long sit-down with Mark Levin on Fox News as my comeback interview. We prepped the interview for weeks, and then 2 days before shooting, Fox News pulled out on the interview. The network I had appeared on more than 75 times between 2018 and 2020 suddenly didn't want to associate with me anymore. I was just beginning my house arrest, so I sat in my apartment bound to home incarceration by my ankle tracking monitor, and there in the enforced silence, I began to understand. Oh, I get it. I'm about to be shunned. It didn't matter that I got hundreds of thousands of people at minimum to walk away. It didn't matter that I had created a thriving movement and organization that produced over 100 events in just 2.5 years. It didn't matter that I sacrificed my personal life, my time, my dreams of becoming a performer, not to mention my personal safety and security, to give everything, and I do mean everything I have, to the conservative movement. The left decided that it was time for me to be finished, and the right was not going to fight for me or for Walkaway. Now I understand. I can tell you from experience, it's one of the worst places a person can be to have one side of the aisle trying to destroy you relentlessly and mercilessly as though you're incredibly important, while the other side of the aisle treats you as if you're not. Honestly, if I hadn't made the decision to fight my way back in and not allow myself or my work to be cast aside, I'm really not sure that conservatives wouldn't have just let Walkaway go. And I don't understand that. The reality is, the left turned their backs on me when I walked away from them, but the right turned their backs on me when I stood up for them. Which one is worse? But the abandonment after January 6th was hardly the beginning of this confusing treatment. In the last 5.5 years, I created a movement that encouraged and inspired many thousands to walk away. I've organized thousands of volunteers around the country to create state groups in all 50 states for meet and greets, door knocking, phone banking, and voter registration drives. I've organized, fundraised for, and produced over 100 events around the country and online, including while I was on house arrest for 3 months, and in 2020 while everyone else stayed home. I stood up to government shutdown orders and to the BLM assault on America. In the middle of battling a crippling criminal case and a bogus civil lawfare case against me, I fundraised for and created my own social media app, Walkaway Social, to give a new home to this movement, safe from big tech tyranny and censorship. My team and I rebuilt every aspect of our infrastructure to be able to survive, building new payment processors, donor portals, email services, and contact lists from the ground up. And in 5.5 years, we have never once heard from anyone in the RNC. Not one single person in conservative leadership ever said, maybe there's some talent here that we should really nurture and grow. Every attempt that we have made to have a conversation with Ronna McDaniels has been denied. I have reached out to the Trump team literally dozens of times over 5 years to request a meeting with President Trump to discuss the success of Walkaway and how these results could be multiplied tenfold. Every request I have made for a brief meeting with President Trump for 5.5 years has been declined. Which is very unfortunate, because besides Donald Trump, there's not another person out there in the conservative movement who works harder, fights harder, who doesn't back down, and who has had his name, his reputation, and his freedom and his finances as relentlessly and savagely targeted and attacked as me. It shouldn't have been like that. It shouldn't be like that. And the question is, are we really doing so well in this country right now that we can afford to push away the people in our movement who fight, who build and create and inspire with imagination, ingenuity, and creativity? The very rare few of us who make the impossible possible with relentless hard work, grit, determination, and courage. We will not succeed in saving our country without the Walkaway movement. That's it. Our nation is in grave peril. Next year will decide definitively whether or not the America that all of us know and love can survive, or if the American experiment comes to an end. My hope for the conservative movement is that we wake up now, while there's still time, and that we start treating the best and brightest fighters in our movement with even 50% of the respect and importance that we treat rappers who put on MAGA hats, or famous podcasters and cable news personalities who have never stepped outside to knock on a single door, register a single voter, or influence or inspire anybody to walk away. I'm going to hit 2024 with more passion, more power than anything I've ever done up until now. In January, we will resume the Walkaway Thought Revolution College Tour, focusing on speaking to young people in crucial states like Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. We are launching Project Z, a project aimed at targeting Gen Z by building an army of young voices who will make weekly videos on trending topics and debunking the left's lies used to target this young generation. We'll continue to travel the country to reach out to minority communities to get people woken up and thinking for themselves. We will continue to create outstanding and unique video content to challenge the left's false narratives and divisive propaganda. We will continue to fight day after day to save our country from the destruction of the radical left and grow this movement of free thinkers who choose to walk away. But I need your help. Because of the destruction we endured over the past 3 years, we are currently operating below 30% of what we need to be able to get back to where we were. Tens of thousands of people will see this. We need 5,000 Patriots to sign on to give $10 a month, or 10,000 Patriots to sign on to give $5 a month, and we'll be back where we were. We need all of you to join Walkaway Social on your app store, get involved in your state group, share the testimonial videos all over your social media channels, volunteer with us, donate, share our content, follow us on social media, sign up for our email list and our texting list, help us rebuild. If you want to be a part of a movement that is going to change the world and save our country, Walkaway is it. Because I can fight the left all day long, and I can fight the gatekeepers and saboteurs on the right who are trying to inhibit our success and prevent us from being able to meet President Trump and others who really should know what we're doing. And I can fight the DOJ and the DHS and the CIA and the FBI and the media. I can fight them all, and I have. I can fight them all alone, or we can join hands, fight together, get the hell out there, and save our country. The time is now. Good night.